Okay, so in this video we're going to be showing you how to reassemble a slide out. In our first video we showed how to disassemble and clean a slide out. In our second one, how to test all the components. So here we have everything tested and clean. You just want to make sure you have everything. You got your heaters here, solenoid, your thermostats, regulator, all your brass fittings, and then of course the block. So we'll get into assembling everything. You just want to make sure you have it all, clean workspace, and then your tools. You will need a 5/8, 7/16, and a 1/2 inch. And then for the plugs, you're going to be using a 3/16 hex wrench there. Alright, the first thing we're going to be doing in the block is putting our plugs back in. Here we have one plug here, one on the bottom, and we're going to have 3 in the front. So we're going to put a small amount of thread sealant compound around the threads here, but just enough to let it seal but not get any inside the block, which could be a problem. So we're going to make sure none of this thread sealant gets on the bottom side of the plug. We've got the bottom of this plug clean, ready to go, and our first one is going to go at the end of the block, and this is actually the bottom, so the bottom of the block on the end in the center. And then you don't want to go too tight with these, just enough typically to where it's level with the block, because if you go too deep, then that could be a problem and it could block the oil flow inside. And then you can just wipe that clean to see how far in your plug is, and that's just about level. I'm gonna go just a tiny bit more, but that is snug, and that's all you need. I'm gonna flip this over and do the one on the other side. This is the end on top. All right, and that's snug and just about level, or even with the block. Next we'll be doing the front end. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the holes, and then this top right one here is actually going to be for one of the heaters. Okay, we're looking at the front of the block. There's these 4 threaded, but it's only this top left one, the middle one, and the bottom one that are going to receive plugs. Again, we're going to go tight but not too far in. So those are finished. So next we'll be taking the longer heater that has threads on the end of it, and this is the air heater. So this is going to be threading into this last threaded hole here, and you will put pipe sealant on it, but you will not be screwing this in as tight as the rest, just till it's snug and doesn't come loose. Okay, so I got some joint sealant on there. I'm going to take my 7/16 and tighten this. Okay, next we'll be installing the thermostats, and as you can see on the thermostats themselves, you'll see which one is for the higher temperature. This one's 160, and one for the lower, which is L140. So the 140 is going to screw in on the bottom. Just finger tight. And the 160 goes on top. And then you're just gonna, so finger tight, and then you're just gonna tighten them a little bit more. Just enough to where they won't come loose while in operation. Okay, we're gonna break this loose and look at the other end. And here we'll be putting in a couple of O-rings. Let's get this situated. So here we have our brass piece that the nozzle screws into, and in disassembly you would have removed both of the old O-rings. One goes in this groove here, the other goes over the outside right here, and you're going to take your new O-rings. You can put a little bit of Vaseline or something on them so that they stay in place when you put it on. So I'll just put a little bit of that on there. And this slides over the back side of this brass piece. Just like so. And then this piece is a little more difficult, but the O-ring goes over the end. You may need some kind of a pick to help you get it over that ridge. Oh, almost had it. There it goes. Now this end is what goes into the end of this slide out here. And you're going to put it in so that the top and the bottom have that flat part. And you're just going to twist slightly, and that actually went in really nice. Take your silver piece here, secures it down, and your 4 screws. Okay, finally got the right size. So for these, you'll be using a 9/64. If you can see that, 9/64. Now that these are all snug here, we're gonna put it back in the vise on its side. With these two holes together facing up. Okay, we have these 2 holes. Our first brass piece we're going to be using here is different than these 2. If you notice, these are compression fittings, whereas this is just a normal 90. So we're going to take the 90 and dope the one side. And this is going to go in our bottom hole. You want it snug, and then you also want it coming directly out this way. Just like so. Then you're going to take the bottom of your solenoid, the base, and that's going to go into here once we put some thread sealant on. We have the oil coming out of this 90 and over, and you want the arrow pointing that direction. And right about there, you want it to finish facing the open part facing up. Next, we'll take one of those compression fittings, and that'll be what's coming out. So we're going to dope this side, the normal threaded pipe side. That'll go into the other half of the base of the solenoid. You'll also want this piece here to be going directly up, because we're going to have to move it over and angle it downward, but we want a little bit more wiggle room, so we're going to wait until we're ready for that. Take this out, tighten the vise. Now this is the top. So we're going to take the other compression fitting coming out of the top, and the regular threaded is what we're going to put sealant on and put in there. That's snug, and you want this to finish pointing back. And this piece here is what our compression fittings are going into, and it's going to connect right there. So we're going to put this end in, start to tighten this down. Now this part can be a little tricky because it's very tight. So this is started. For this end to go in, we're going to line up that with the hole and then slowly turn this towards it. Now it's starting to turn this, so we'll have to hold that. Hold the base to the solenoid steady while we turn this. And there we go. It's lined up, and you'll thread it on. Okay, now that the compression fittings are snug, we're going to work on putting the top of the solenoid back together. So we have this piece, our brand new core to the solenoid, which is important. That should be new if you're rebuilding your slide out. Also a new O-ring for inside, and then this spring is to help with vibration, but that'll just slide right over that. Also, when you're putting these compression fittings on, thread sealant or dope does not go on these two here. Just going into the block and into the base of the solenoid. So first step with this is to take that O-ring. Then you take the core, and the spring is what goes up inside. So you don't want to lose that. Like so. And then this will screw in to the base. We'll just take an adjustable wrench to the top. Snug that down, but not too crazy. And then this, your solenoid, slides right on top. Okay, now that that's on, we're going to put the U-bracket clip on the top that secures this in place. Slides right in there, pops in so it can still rotate but won't slide off. Now we're going to take this apart, or take this out of the vise and slide the front cover on. So we're going to slide this front cover through like so, and put it back in the vise. And we're going to loosely tighten this top screw here to secure the box in place. For this you'll need a Phillips. And you'll just tighten it a little bit. Flip this over. And there will be two more. We're going to take our last brass piece that's threaded pipe on one and a compression fitting on the other, and that's what goes into the bottom of the slide out right here. So we'll do that next before we secure that last screw.
Like 135, the other one's 150, so think of that. Fire it all back up.
Then you'll need your 7/16. Tighten this down. And this will be where your air is coming in, so it doesn't have to be crazy tight, but snug. I'll take that last screw and secure this in place. And also hold on tight. Okay, next we're going to install the other heater. This will be the oil heater, and it just slides into that hole there. And then you'll want to slide it in a little bit past. So there's the end. You keep going just a little bit. Okay, so there's one hole left in the side of the slide out here, right there above our 90, and that connects to this hole here. So that's what our pipe coming from our regulator is going to slide through and screw into there. So we'll just need to put some sealant on and get that in. Next, we're going to take our regulator. That's going to go directly into here on the side. Now that this oil regulator's on, the last things we have are wiring. So I'm going to show you how to wire all these back together. And the last thing would be to put in your nozzle after you make sure that's clean, and then test the slide out. So let's get into wiring. Okay, for our first terminal, we're going to have one wire from our top thermostat and one wire from our air heater, which is the one down below that we screwed in. That's going to be our first terminal. So these two are in. For each terminal, it doesn't matter what side you put them on. So for this first terminal, I put the air heater on one side and the top thermostat wire on the other. For the second terminal, you're gonna have your orange. You're gonna have your wire here, your hot wire. Your hot wire here is going to the burner light. So orange, burner light. One wire from your solenoid, so we'll take purple, and the other wire from our top thermostat. So all four of these will be under these two screws. For the third terminal, we're going to have the slide out heater, which is the top heater, so one of the wires of that. We're going to have our bottom thermostat, so one of those legs, and we're going to have our heater light. So you're going to have to look. Heater is our first red light, and that would be this guy. So these three will go into our third terminal. For the third terminal, I did the two on this one and then the thermostat or the heater wire by itself over here because it's smaller. Sometimes if you put it with the bigger wires, it can slide out. So our third terminal is done. Our fourth terminal, we're gonna have blue, our power light, which is orange, and our bottom thermostat. So blue will be here. These two will go into the front. It'll be easier that way. So that's snug. Last, we have our two neutrals at the end. So we have one leg of neutral coming from each of our lights down below here. So each of our lights has one neutral already tied in. We have our neutral coming in. This will be our main neutral. And then we're gonna have a neutral from both of our heaters and one from our solenoid. That's this white one because we used purple for hot. So for our neutrals, we'll have the three for the lights, one each for the heaters and one for the solenoid, and we'll tie those into neutral. So our wiring is done. We just put some of these excess length of wires in there and close her up. And there's your slide out, rebuilt. So all we'd have left is to test this in our furnace, make sure it's running smoothly. But other than that, thanks for watching. Refer to some of our other videos for diagnosing and cleaning. But please subscribe and like if you like our content so you can see more.